Elon Musk says the issue in the future isn't overpopulation, but a declining and aging population. What is your opinion on this statement? Economically, a declining human population is a problem. Ecologically, an increasing human population is a disaster. The real issue is the weighting of interests. Rent in my town is about £600–900 a month. A basic house is about £130k, a flat is about £90k. I can't afford to move out. Why would I want to try to raise a child I can't feed? Edit. To be clear, this is not a nice place to live, and when I say basic I mean 2 up 2 down, needs work with little to no garden and no parking. The average income is whatever selling weed gets you plus job seekers. Our Height Street is 40% vape shops and pubs. We have 6 pubs so close together you could order food at one and run to the one at the other end of the town to get a drink and back before it arrived. Edit 2. Looking on Zoopla, the average house price is $189k. We're seeing declining birth rates in most developed nations, so that makes sense to me. Funny how in the face of a bleak and uncertain future people don't want to throw a kid into the mix. Think about Charlie Bucket's family in Willy Wonka. There was 1 kid, 2 adults, and an entire country king mattress full of bedridden grandparents. Society cannot function this way. It cannot support a retired class twice the size of the working class. It's not about how big the family is, it's about who can pitch in. If there aren't enough resources to go around, that's one thing, but the conditions don't matter if the family is flip-flopped. If something happens in the Bucket household and they lose one of the parents, Uncle Joe and all his cronies are going to die. The family values mean they won't just let that happen, so the entire house is going down with them. So, we need to make sure we keep the population in a comfortable distribution of age. Else, we will have to choose between the fabric of society, or culling the elderly. Uncle Joe is a bastard, so I am for it either way. It's true. I know that Japan is trying to address this before it becomes overwhelming by using AI and robots. The fact of the matter is we simply don't need as many people anymore in developed countries. Automation and industrialization means that one person today can do the work of 100 people 100 years ago. A declining population is not a problem for new generations, it is actually a benefit for them. It is a problem for older generations whose prosperity is based on constant growth of the population. I think most of our problems are actually symptoms of overpopulation. And overpopulation is really the root of most of the other problems. It's like when you have the flu and you're producing a load of snot and coughing a ton. In this analogy, overpopulation is the flu and pollution, overfishing, etc. is the snot cough. What we're doing is just trying to blow all the snot out of our nose or treat the cough. But if we just got rid of the virus, it would stop all the other symptoms. For the sake of argument, let's say the world population is 10 million, yes, extremely low just for proof of concept. If the population was 10 million, we could burn as much coal as we want, use as much water as we want, cut as many trees as we want, catch as many fish as we want, because the ecosystem would replace them fast enough. Most of our problems aren't really a problem at a smaller scale. The atmosphere can take some pollution and be okay. Volcanoes, trees can be cut down and the forest will replenish. Fish could be farmed to heart's content. What's happening to us is what happens to any other animal on the planet when they start unbalancing their ecosystem. For example, if a forest gets overpopulated with wolves, then they will start to run out of prey and the wolf population starts decreasing again. I think overpopulation is absolutely a problem. I feel like 90% of our other problems are a result of overpopulation, just some random Redditor. I definitely don't know for sure. I'll happily listen to why this line of thought is wrong on mobile, so sorry for formatting mistakes. Both are problems. Things worked out earlier because a population boom has a lot of young people. Now, we can either keep growing the population even more and have even worse overpopulation, and even more issues later, or have a remotely balanced spread of ages and all the issues that come with it. One of these options postpones the problem for a later date. I don't think a declining and aging population will be a problem for a while. The problem is less how many people there are, but more the resource usage of those people, and the biggest factor there is economic inequality. There is more than enough wealth, i.e. resources available for human use to give everyone a decent and productive life. The problem is, most of it is concentrated in a few dozen hands, which waste most of that wealth. And on the other hand, there are billions of people who don't have the resources to put their minds and hands to use in any productive way, wasting their potential. An aging population is only a relatively, on a scale of several decades, short-term local economic issue. Overpopulation is a global and a long-term issue. A big problem is how the main source of overpopulation is developing countries, who don't actually give a crap about it. One day we'll have a much more stable and evenly distributed population, and at that point, we should stop having these issues. He's not wrong, but he's also not exactly right. It's not that we're going to run out of space for people. We just can't support the amount of people we have currently for long. Our population wants is not sustainable right now, and until our reliance on tech that doesn't squander more resources from Earth than it can regenerate, then we are considered overpopulated right now. I like to think of the issue as thousands of fish in a small tank. We may live and have new fishes for generation after generation, but our natural bacteria-filled filter cannot sustain or keep up forever. We may keep the same population until the end, but eventually the fish will slowly die when the water becomes too poisonous with ammonia. Overpopulation means more resources needed, which means more logging, mining, pollution, etc. What happens when we cure cancer and everyone starts living to be 100 plus? A good old-fashioned plague would probably fix this. That will only be a problem for the developed world, and it'll be offset by increasing automation, so it probably won't end up being much of a problem at all. Places like India and the Middle East are having kids at rates much higher than the West. Even in places like the US, the people having children are poor or stupid in relation to their peers, or both. Basically, I think the movie Idiocracy is going to come true unless smart people start blowing out 4 or 5 kids a couple. Yep. The more humanity turns towards technology, the more we will turn away from typical human relationships and interaction, which will lead to a lack of a replacement of the population and a massive geriatric population. Issue of the future is Elon Musk and his friends hoarding wealth. Overpopulation isn't a problem if all people use as much resources as the median human, even in the West. Overpopulation becomes a problem when the uber-rich spend more and cause more pollution than a few countries with the wealth Musk and others have stolen from their employees. Even an aging population could be sustained. Elon Musk wasn't the first person to say this. This has been known for decades, yet no one is doing a effing thing about it. People always wait until the last minute to do something. That's just the nature of the human condition. We always think it's not our problem or it will never happen to us. That's the real problem. Elon is right, but he doesn't get a Nobel Peace Prize for saying it, either. We need a new plague. We are still adding a lot of people to the world while emptying it of natural resources and wildlife. Also adding a lot of energy to the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide and other pollutants. But sure, A declining and aging population might not be good at correcting that or taking care of each other. So he's both right and wrong. An aging population is a necessary occurrence as the global population settles to a sustainable level. Overpopulation is largely the result of people living longer, so it is pretty much connected. All populations follow the same microscopic trends of having a plateauing population. The world as a macroscopic whole is set to follow this same trend. For the people that think we'll have a population of 100 billion. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's significantly lower. I think the real issue are Richards like himself. I think he's a prat who's measuring a one-generation-long problem as more important than a 1,000-generation-long problem. A self-solving issue. Give it 2 to 3 generations and it isn't an issue anymore, since housing is cheap again since there's piles of it laying around unused. The issue of the future is human-induced climate change. Overpopulation is the issue of the present and the past. True, my country's UK biggest drain on governmental funding pot is spending for the elderly. Pensions, subsidized care in the form of NHS or care homes. We are simply living longer. Unfortunately, Boris convinced people that immigrants and the EU were our biggest cost by using large banners with lies on them. As of yet, he who commissioned the bus and directly lied to the public has not been prosecuted but been allowed to be Prime Minister and then subsequently voted to be Prime Minister. The stupidity behind this I will never fathom. So, here's to our country tanking in the markets. Brexit. Shut all the old people. This is totally true. Most people aren't that intelligent, so their only work value is unskilled labor. But unskilled labor relies on the speed and muscle of a youth. So there is this massive demand for work slow enough for the elderly, and that makes the per hour value of that work go down. And then, the elderly complain that McDonald's doesn't pay enough, and it wasn't like this when there were factory mining jobs. There still are factory and mining jobs. People just have to be strong and youthful to get them the same way it has always been. Automation helps fill in the demand for strength and vitality, but you can't fix old and stupid. A social society like the US tries to help, but often the rich refuse to help, leaving the burden on the middle class, which then collapses under the weight. A Darwinist society like Russia lets them starve to death, but that results in high crime rate and political destabilization. And for the first time in history, this will be happening in just about every country around the world. Humans seem to be the issue. Got to find ways to keep people physically and mentally healthy their entire lives so they can continue to be productive. It will be gradual decline, society will adjust. Earth's resources, however, cannot adjust to so much strain from overpopulation, as they're finite, and number X200B, Elon being Elon again. I'm sure Elon would love to have everyone he can't exploit for cheap labor to die off. That maybe we should stop paying attention to what he says. He is a CEO, not a prophet. Elon Musk needs to start properly taking care of his workforce. Disgusting union squasher. I think Elon should just make cars and SFU with his Tony Stark shenanigans. Well, according to the law of diminishing returns, eventually the population will hit a plateau. If John Calhoun's rat experiment is an accurate depiction of the future that is awaiting us, eventually, we are heading towards extinction, which simply means a declining and aging population is not such a far guess. I think we shouldn't be getting opinions from Elon Musk. Well, relative to sustainability, You can probably argue that the Earth will become more overpopulated even if the population stagnates or declines, because we're really effing up the environment that's supposed to be sustaining us. It's odd that Musk doesn't know about the baby pumps in the underdeveloped world. Strengthen the global community and allow freer movement, and bam, there's actually not a population decline problem at all. Aging, he's got a point. People are living longer, but not many of them are living so much healthier in their extra 10 to 20 years that it mitigates the massive medical and care needs they're racking up. What we really need is a magic bullet that lets people live till they're, say, 75, but while being as healthy as a reasonably fit middle-aged person. Then, at 75, they instantly and painlessly drop dead. They call it the silver tsunami. The largest age group in the coming years will be people aged 65 and above, and they will remain so for decades to come. These elderly are not only illiterate when it comes to technology, in an age of which you could argue is a golden age for technology, which makes them easy targets for exploitation, scams, fake news, etc. They don't have that e-filter like the rest of us that basically grew up with the laptop phone in our hands. They also put an enormous stress on the welfare system. Let me say very clearly, this is not their fault, or anyone else's for that matter. We are just born in a country, do the best with the cards we are dealt, and that's that. But yeah, it's a very big problem. Or maybe I'm wrong? I hope so. That's what I understand of it anyway. In no way, shape or form am I an expert on the subject. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to hear more of the best posts.